In this lesson 6A lab number 4, row n stars, it asks you to write a method that will receive an integer parameter n and output n stars in a row using a while loop. This is very similar to the first lab in 6A, lab 1, where it output 5 stars, but in this case we're actually going to read the data from a data file. As you can see here in lab 6A4.n, there are 3 values, 5, 10, and 20. And the expected output is the label row n stars, and then you have a row of 5 stars, a row of 10 stars, and a row of 20 stars. Now let's take a look at this complete solution that's been provided and work through it together. First of all, this import statement is the same one we've used, import static java.lang.system, where you're able to use the system out print line without having to type the word system each time. It's just a convenience. These next 2 import statements enable file input. The first one, java.util.star, contains the scanner class, which allows any type of input, whether it's keyboard or file. And then the import java.io.star contains the file class, which allows you to link the scanner class to an actual external file. And so both of those are needed for this lab to work. So we have the heading lab 6A4, which is going to match the name of the file over here. And then we have the method row n stars, and this time it receives a parameter n. This is very similar to, again, lab 1 in its construction, but it uses the value n instead of the value 5, as you can see here in the while loop. We have a loop control variable x starting at 1, and then our while is set up to be while x is less than or equal to n, not just 5, but whatever comes in as the variable n in the parameter. We output 1 star, we increment by step 1, and we do a line feed. So this will output that number of stars, whatever the value of n is. Now let's look at the main method for a second. After the standard heading, public static void main, string bracket args, we also have this throws IO exception, and this is required when you do file input. This essentially tells the compiler, yes, I know it's possible I may not find a file and it'll throw an error, but I'm stating that from the beginning and that makes it okay. We do an output that says row of n stars, and here is where we set up the scanner class object, and we call it F. You can call it whatever you want. So scanner F gets new scanner and then new file. So you have to have both of these, one nested inside the other. And then inside the quotes is the name of the data file. Now this data file has already been set up for you. You don't have to do that. It's built into this lab. And that data file contains the values 5, 10, and 20. So you have to make sure that you just type in the data file exactly as you see it. Now here's another while loop, but this one basically loops through the data file. And this while f.hasNext, this is checking to see if there is still another value that we haven't looked at in the file. And when we first start, the data pointer starts right before the 5. When it reads the 5, it jumps down to right before the 10, and then jumps down to before the 20. And as soon as it reads the 20, it jumps down here to the end of file. And that's a special invisible marker that will cause this f.hasNext to be false. That's what will stop the loop. Now, as long as we have a value, f.hasNext will continue to go. And so what we do is we call row of n stars, and then you send it an actual read statement, f.nextInt, which gets the value in the data file, sends it to the parameter n. The first time it sends it a 5, and this will output a row of 5 stars. The second time through, it'll send it the value 10, and it'll output a row of 10 stars after it's read in and output 20 stars. And that's how this program works. And finally, at the end, we do a line feed, and then the all-important f.close. Anytime you open a file, an external file, you must close that file. It's just a really good habit to get into. So let's type this in. Import static java.lang.system.star import java.util.star import java.io.star. Now some teachers will insist that here you actually type the word scanner and here the word file. It doesn't really matter because either way only the object or the class that is being used will be brought into the program. So we'll leave it that way. And here public class lab 6a4, again it must match the name of the .java file. We do an open close brace, and now we define the method public static void row in stars, and in the parentheses we actually have a parameter. It's not just empty anymore. And here we set up our loop control variable. X starts at 1. And here the while is set up while x is less than or equal to n. So whatever the value of n is, that's how many times this loop will execute. And then inside we do out.print a single star. We increment x by a step of 1. We end it with a line feed so that the next output will be on the next line. And now we type in the main method, public static void main string bracket args. And we output our label, row in stars. And now we set up our scanner object, scanner f gets new, scanner parentheses new file. The name of the data file, lab6a4.n, and case matters here, especially with Codio because it uses a Linux-based system where case does matter. In some situations it doesn't. And now while f.has next, again this is the loop that actually reads the data from the file. And then we just simply call row in stars, and right here inside of the parameter, the actual parameter, we just simply call the f method that reads a next int from the file. Now this actually does not need the braces because the step is implied in the next int. You can put the braces if you want to, but it's not necessarily. Out.println and then close the f input object. We compile it and run it. And we did forget something. What was it? We forgot to do throws IO exception. That's going to happen. And there's the output. 5 stars, then 10, then 20. Exactly what you wanted.